Yeah, and it was one of the things that was a big aha moment, and that moment actually had us questioning all the other chemicals. Everything else kind of came second, and when we really understood, and Stefan Posner was kind enough to explain to us what is the effect of PFAS in nature to our water shelters, to waterborne organisms, and thus to animals. When he explained that to us, it was we were both Martin and I were quite clear on what the decision that we needed to make, even at that period, and that was so long ago. I can barely remember, but it was a long time ago, and that was kind of the start of that journey of like, aha, if that's what this simple product is, we need to look into everything else that we're doing to understand more about that, so we are making the right choices. And those choices became that we ended up removing a lot of that because we realized this is not what makes great outdoor gear. This is not what makes a great outdoor experience.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Minimalist podcast. I'm your host, Meg Carney, and I'm an outdoor and environmental writer and author of the book, Outdoor Minimalist, Waste Less Hiking, Camping, and Backpacking. The Outdoor Minimalist podcast has the goal to give listeners actionable ways to waste less hiking, camping, backpacking, and more during every step of their process. Your impact outdoors starts long before you hit the trail and goes beyond leave no trace ethics. You'll learn how to identify sustainable outdoor brands, how to ask hard questions regarding sustainability, and begin to shift and evolve your mindset to integrate minimalism into all of your outdoor pursuits. In episode 111 of the Outdoor Minimalist podcast, we introduce the highly requested topic of PFAS. You'll get an inside look into how and why companies have chosen to use PFAS in the past, and how one company has phased out the chemical to better align their products with their commitment to a better outdoor experience and a more sustainable future. There's so much to be said about this subject, and honestly, it's way too much to cover in just one episode. And that's why I'm excited to announce that we are producing a new 10-part series dedicated to discussing what PFAS is, how it works, and why it's now being phased out across the globe. Stay tuned and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for updates on the release date. Leading our conversation today, I'm joined by Martin Axelhed and Donna Bruns. Martin is the CEO of the prominent outdoor brand Fjallraven, and Donna is the global director of product. Hailing from a small town in Sweden, a place where mountains and forests meet the sea, Fjallraven is an outdoor clothing and equipment company that's committed to making nature more accessible. In true Swedish style, they focus on simplicity and practicality, and have the utmost respect for the environment. So thank you all for joining me on the Outdoor Minimalist podcast today. This has been a long-awaited topic for both me and many of our listeners. But before we jump into all things PFAS, I would love it if you all could introduce yourself and your company, along with maybe your role in the company.
Can I start? Right.
I think we let Martin start.
Okay. I'm born and raised in Sweden. My name is Martin Axelhed. I joined this company in 1994 as a young and very enthusiastic outdoor person. And thanks to my father, I got the chance to work in a store downtown Stockholm, a very newly opened flagship store for Fjällräven. And during the years, I was working hard during weekends, and one day I ran into the founder, Åke Nordin, who were sitting in the lunchroom having some meeting, and he asked me, "Who are you?" And just a brief introduction, and then we moved on. And later on during my life, I had a chance to develop myself. Many times thanks to my father, because he was keeping me updated on the assortment, and I was borrowing sales samples because he was working as a salesman in the north of Sweden. But one day he decided to leave Fjällräven, and he told Åke, the founder, that he's leaving. He was joining Norröna, which is a Norwegian outdoor brand. So a couple of days later, Åke Nordin, the founder, called me and asked me what I was doing, and I just briefed him on, I'm now studying, and he said, I have something better for you. Take over your father's job as a salesman in the northern part of Sweden. Call me tomorrow when you have decided. And this was 1997, and I decided and called him back. And since then, I have been loyal and very honored to work for this company and the owning family, the founding family, which is still the majority owner of the company, the family Nordin. So here I am. A couple of years later, I was appointed CEO 2005 and have run the company and the strategic work since then. Nowadays, I'm also in the board or the steering group of Phoenix Outdoor, which consists of a couple of brands and a couple of retail chains in Europe. And we are established in a little bit more than 70 countries across the globe, with strong presence in Europe, of course, Scandinavia, Germany, Benelux, but also in North America and in a couple of countries in Asia. So we have grown from quite a small company in the northern part of Sweden, where we started out 1960, started out with a wooden frame, which became an aluminium frame, which became a tent, which became a sleeping bag, and a lot of trekking-oriented innovations. A couple of years down the road, Åke also put apparel in place. So we became quite soon during the 70s a fully assorted outdoor company, very technical-oriented, lightweight, very innovative in many areas. So we were considered to be one of few real outdoor brands in Scandinavia, and we were growing already then and established ourselves in both Norway, Finland, Denmark, and in Germany in a very early stage. And we have kept that idea to be a trekking, hiking oriented outdoor brand, doing very timeless, very durable, very functional outdoor products. And here we sit today. And with warm hand, I would like to hand it over to Donna, who is a dear colleague of mine.
Yes, Donna, and my story that was a great story, Martin. That's how it works. Yes, Donna Bruns, not as illustrious background as Martin has. I'm an American from Texas, and born and raised doing what Texans do. A lot outside, a lot of, at that time we called it camping. We don't have a lot of trekking in Texas; it's just too warm. We spend a lot of time in the water and the ocean, but we do a lot of camping, some hunting, riding, but always been outside and always kind of enjoyed land as much as ocean and water. I've been in Sweden for a little over 22 years now. Been with Fjallraven a bit here and there in a span of 20 years. This year, strangely enough, 2003. And was lucky enough to work with Åke Nordin, where he taught me a lot about how to build product. Because clearly a girl from Texas has no idea how to make a big down jacket. But I learned, and I learned a lot.
Quick.
Yeah.
You learn quick.
I learned quick enough.
Yeah, we brought you into environments where you had to learn very quickly.
Yeah, I was thrown out in a lot of situations on small islands and dropped off, and they said, "We'll pick you up in a couple of days." And I'm like, "Okay." So you learn really quickly what you need to do to get by.
Yeah, the climate from Texas to Sweden must be a bit dramatic, but being there 20 years, I'm sure you've acclimated quite well. And as far as a brand goes, I guess I know you guys best for the apparel. So do you think that is what you are known best for? Or as a company, what is kind of like your claim to fame, I guess?
So it's, as I said, we have been around since 1960. So depending on where you ask the question, you will get different answers. Because if you go into the Scandinavian countries, we're very well known for backpacks, tents, sleeping bags, but also very technical trousers. pants. If you ask someone in Switzerland, which we entered very lately, we might be more known for the small day pack Konkin. Same goes for some of the Asian countries. And then if you talk to some people in Germany, it might be for our very famous Greenland jacket. So we have a couple of, and that's probably kind of unique, but we have a couple of very iconic products that has settled down in different parts of the history and really given us a footprint in different regions. So it differs. But one thing I know is that people have big trust in what we do, and that our products are seen to be of the highest quality possible and very durable. That's something that I can see in common when you ask people in different markets about what they stand for.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it was very fitting for you guys to come on the show, because you do have a high level of durability and performance. And since you have been a long-standing company in the outdoor industry across the world market, it seems like sustainability, which I guess is a piece of durability, has always been kind of integrated into your product design and messaging. And as the company has changed and grown over all the years that you've been in business, how has that approach maybe changed?
I would say
More difficult
more difficult,
or more complex.
It requires more from each individual, but at the same time, we have always done robust and durable products.
Thoughtful products. And the goal of the products from day one has been that they have a very long life. I mean, we used to use the term kind of like generational products quite a bit. Because that was the kind of the idea that we were developing a product that is clean enough in its, I would say, function and aesthetic to last the test of time. And when you last the test of time, you create something that is, you try to create something that has those aspects. And sustainability was one of those things that we've always kind of done. It's not really been a tagline. It's more of like, we've just kind of done the work because we had to look 10 years in the future and say, okay, what is this going to be? And how is this going to act in 10 years?
And to this, I would like to add that we have been listed as a company since 1984, but we have been majority owned by the same family with a very long-term perspective, which means that we haven't been forced to cut corners or, do compromises on product level, because that's what happened if you have short-term investors involved and they want to maximize something. I'm not saying everyone is doing it, but it happens frequently that then you cut somewhere and you want to increase margin, you want to do things all over the place. But in our case, we have been lucky enough to have the same ownership over such a long time that knows how important it is to do products that last and keeps the quality on the absolute highest level.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have noticed that as a trend as well with like smaller family owned companies. They tend to have a bit more control over that aspect, and it's definitely appreciated by many consumers. And one thing that I could be wrong about this, but you have used PFAS in the past in some of your products. And so kind of the theme of today's episode is the process you guys have been going through in order to phase those things out and how you're exactly changing it to be PFAS free. So I think kind of like phasing into that conversation, we can start by first explaining to the audience, if they don't know, what PFAS are and why so many companies in the outdoor industry are beginning to phase them out if they have used them before.
PFAS or PFCs, they are in essence what we call a forever chemical, and they make quite a few things easier. When it rains, it makes the rain kind of bubble up and zip off your garments, and so that keeps you dry. Or feeling dry. It is used to make something more durable. It is used to make something smoother and go faster, even in production. So it's used in a lot of things for durable and water repellents, but not limited to water repellents. But it's also dirt repellents. And these chemicals are input in so many different areas, not just in apparel or in production, but it is everywhere. And the more we understand, that it's in so many places. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we all face.
Yeah. So,
and it, to connect your question, I mean, we have always been, or for a very long time, looking into all kind of chemicals you add to a product for performance has been something we have evaluated and tried to phase out, because we believe to do a really durable product, it should not be based on any chemicals or treatments that you actually wash out or so. Sun protection
doesn't last the long lifetime of the garment.
Exactly.
Because what are you really selling?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just selling the first 10 washes, that's not really, it doesn't really match with what we're trying to do as a brand. Or if you're selling something that doesn't really deliver for the next 10 years, again, it's what are we doing? What are we selling?
Yeah. And also when it comes to hand feel, etc., we want the natural hand feel rather than an artificial hand feel made by chemical applied. So this was actually something that we found out, and based on that strategy, we also saw a multitude of different chemicals at the same time. But PFAS was, of course, the major, most obvious thing that we need to really focus on.
Yeah, and it was one of the things that was a big aha moment, and that moment actually had us questioning all the other chemicals. Everything else kind of came second. And when we really understood, and Stefan Posner was kind enough to explain to us what is the effect of PFAS in nature to our water shelters, to waterborne organisms, and thus to animals. When he explained that to us, it was both Martin and I were quite clear on what the decision that we needed to make, even at that period. And that was so long ago. I can barely remember, but it was a long time ago. And that was kind of the start of that journey of like, aha, if that's what this simple product is, we need to look into everything else that we're doing to understand more about that. So we are making the right choices. And those choices became that we ended up removing a lot of that, because we realized this is not what makes great outdoor gear. This is not what makes a great outdoor experience.
And what is interesting is that still today, 2023, there is still a very strong focus on DWRs, the surface on waterproof products. But that's just one small part of it.
A tiny bit of the
so what we decided was to phase it out from everything, which is the big thing for us, which we tried to explain to colleagues in the industry and to consumers and retailers or whatever, that we have phased it out from day packs where you otherwise find it in the linings, or tents, or sleeping bags, or wallets. I mean, you find it everywhere.
Yeah.
So that has been a massive process, because again, most people are believing, or I think still many companies believe, that as soon as we get away with the DWR and change that to something else, we are done. But that's not really the truth. No.
It's kind of like a stepping stone. And I kind of want to talk a little bit more about the process itself that you guys went through to actually replace the PFAS with something else that performed just as well. So what did that process look like? When did it start? And what are you doing now instead of applying those chemicals?
I know you do the detailed part of it, but I would say the overarching thing is that you don't necessarily need to replace if you choose the right constructed fabric, or you construct the product properly. So it doesn't mean that you need to replace it with something else. DWR, yes, that's a treatment that is needed for waterproof shell products. But in many other cases, you can actually find fabrics and solution that makes the product as good without adding. So
that has function by construction. And of course, that's sometimes a lot more complicated and a lot more expensive. But a lot of these functions can be replaced, or a lot of the chemical functions can be replaced by the way you weave a fabric, the way you put the product together. That's super important to be able to identify those. That low hanging fruit is a win right there. But that was one part of it. As far as the journey goes, of from the moment as I was describing before, where Martin and I kind of went, aha, that's not good stuff. We don't want it. Then we went, of course, to the first thing that we thought about, which was waterproof garments. We went to DWR first. Oh, Jesus, that we need to get rid of. We need to get rid of products that have PFAS in the membrane. Okay, so that's waterproof products. And those we started, it was the obvious place. And so we started working on those first. And working through those, it was not as easy as it looked back then, because the suppliers that we were talking to, they had no idea what we were talking about. They were like, but we don't understand. It's the stuff you put on the outside. But there's other stuff you can put on the outside. They're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. So we even had to help import the type of Dandermeer system that makes up a fluorocarbon-free or the PFAS-free DWR, help them import that into Japan because it wasn't even available. So at that time, there was a lot of legwork to be done. But going further into that, and you say to replace it with something just as good, that I think I need to, with all transparency, speak to. Having a DWR without PFAS, it's not as good. It doesn't work as well. And I'm sorry, we've had to stand in front of many sales teams. We've had to stand in front of many customers and saying, no, it's not as good. But it's the hit we're willing to take, because there's no alternative. I mean, it has to. This is what without using that chemical, this is what we can get, and we still held fast to our decision. There weren't all easy days. There were a couple days where we really
many setbacks.
Yeah, we really had setbacks, even mistakes in factories where we've got everything all settled up, and we've changed membranes and we've changed DWRs, and we've done all this work, and then a mistake happens.
And separate production lines and all those kind of things, which you have to do, because you cannot run fabric in the same machinery as PFAS products, because then you have contamination and then it's waste anyhow. So you need to. It's a big thing. It's a big transformation to make this happen.
So I wanted to be really transparent about that. That is it as good? I mean, good chemicals are good. They work. They're there because they really, really work. And PFAS, to its credit, it works. Unfortunately, it's the downside of it is the reason we all need to get rid of it, because it doesn't. It works forever and it never goes away, and it's not good.
And it's a very cheap way of solving problems.
An incredibly cheap way of solving problems. But I mean, after we attacked the first round, we had many setbacks. We had to recall things from the market because we did not have, the factory was not split into far enough apart to where we didn't have contamination. So we've learned, sometimes the same lesson twice, but we've gotten it.
And Greenpeace made a great job, because they were on our back, of course, knowing that we were in this process, and they caught us. Of course, they caught us. They found PFAS in our EcoShell products, thanks to their testing methods. Took us into that moment that okay, guys, you run products and you claim you're PFAS free, but you're not, and that was a good thing, because then we dived even deeper and solved that problem again. And then we came out with another level of.
And then we understood more. We understood contamination more than we understood when going into it. We just thought if you don't put it on the product, it will not be in the product. That is not so. It is much deeper than that. So that we learned. Thank goodness for that. For Greenpeace that pushed us into diving deeper into it. But even when we got past Shell, then it was like opening Pandora's box. Everywhere we looked, they were using it. We were using it on materials that we didn't even need waterproofness or durable water repellency or anything like that. It was such a part of the a routine in production that they would, fabric suppliers would put it on everything because it makes the fabric better, it makes it stronger, it makes it hold long, and that made sense to everyone. And I said the more and more we tested through all of our product, the more places that we could not imagine that would be there. And I said a lining on the side of a sleeping bag, that at no point do you feel, "Ooh, but that needs to be durable and water repellent," but it's there. And it's there because nobody knows why they put it there, but they're just saying, "Oh, but it's a good thing." So the more we dig, the more work we have to do. And will we ever be done? I don't know, actually. Will we ever really be able to say we're PFAS free? I don't know, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was kind of
No,
oh, go ahead.
the thing is, I mean, we are talking about some people claim more than 10,000 substances. Some say it's below, but it's a lot, which is under the umbrella of PFAS. So of course, the test methods to find all those different substances are constantly developing, which we are happy for. But it's also that you cannot just test with one test and find everything. You need to test different things. We need to be always on our feet to look at, okay, what could be a challenging part on this product? What could be a piece that could have been used in this already on design level? So it is very hard to say we're 100% PFAS free, but we can proudly say that we have been working with phasing everything out since 2009, or 8 or whatever we started. I don't know, something like that. And we have been through heavy testing. We have been through a lot of changes in our supply chain. We have been through a lot of tests, and the tests are developing, and we have learned a lot. So we are in the forefront. And as we speak, we are just some trims away from being, if we would test our entire assortment today, I would say, yeah, we are very much PFAS free. But then 6 months later, maybe a test has been developed and we will find something somewhere. But as far as we can go at the moment, and I just want to say I'm also very proud of the fact that this has been done without knowing that there are laws coming in place in the near future. We have done that because we believe that that was the right way, which is something we try to strive for all the time, to be better than legislations and better than laws and regulations. So we continue. It's not over, and we are not satisfied, but we are in the forefront.
This podcast is sponsored by Diorite Gear. Diorite Gear sells sustainable trekking poles handmade in their Portland, Oregon workshop. By taking ownership of their production, Diorite Gear is also able to minimize their trace in manufacturing and in the environment, while their poles' recyclable and easily repairable components allow you to do the same. As someone that hikes daily and often in the Cascade Mountains or its foothills, trekking poles are a staple in my gear lineup. And the Diorite poles not only have comfortable cork handles, but I love the high level of adjustability, durability, and overall performance, no matter the time of year I happen to be hiking. Use the code MINIMALIST for 10% off your order. Yeah, it seems like a lot of brands, well, not a lot, but there's several brands that might have to start playing catch up now to brands like you guys that started to implement these changes before those legislations and regulations started to become a bigger discussion. So that's beneficial for a lot of different reasons, environmentally and for you guys as a company. And you touched on this quite a bit about how hard it is to actually be PFAS free. And so I do want to talk a little bit about the contamination aspect, especially on the consumer side, because I think for a lot of consumers, they're just starting to learn a lot about the different materials and products and chemicals and what those effects actually are. And if they are a little bit more environmentally focused, they might be looking for labels in the descriptions, such as PFAS free. But how could we truly know whether or not it is PFAS free?
Yeah,
That's a tough one
that's a tough one.
because it's easy to put a label on something.
Mm,
That we know. How can you? How do you know that it's truly PFAS free? I think you have to think as a consumer, but I think the consumers are so much smarter these days. I think we need to give everybody a little bit more credit
mm.
that that most of the consumers that really look into outdoor brands and also to they actually look into brands. And I think by looking into a brand and understanding what is important to that brand gets you closer to having trust,
Mm.
because it's so hard to just put a label on some everything and just walk away. Um, and sometimes the labels are as good as the material is printed on. It may not be the truth. So I think we have to form trust with our consumers. We have to be, or brands ourselves, we have to be trustworthy partners in this journey. And at the end of the day, you're not going to hide behind any label. You're not going to hide behind any blue sign or all of these labels that you can buy into that are going to be the golden ticket. And that okay helped me with many years ago. It's that the labels are cheating. Uh, the labels are the quick way, and you have to do the work. And I think it's important to do the work. So for me, if I'm as a consumer, I look at brands, and if I see a bunch of labels, that makes me less confident. If I dig deep into it and somehow trust the brand and see that they're doing the work, and I think podcasts like yours are helpful
Mm.
because it helps with the research, and it's helped to from a brand's perspective to also communicate with the work that actually has to be done in order to really get there. So I'm sorry to say, it's we have to form trust.
Mm. Yeah, agree. And probably guiding consumers also in terms of what does it mean to have massive amount of new styles all the time and a lot of new developments and new fabrics and stuff versus being a little bit more conservative and using less and testing that and making sure that you have a proven assortment. Now, of course, I'm biased big time, given the fact that we're not doing more than like 8-10% new styles per season versus many that are doing 50% new. But anyhow, I think the outdoor industry is good because we are all doing pretty much the same, less and better versus fast fashion and the industries that are not really, they cannot control that. I mean, it's obvious if you have so much news all the time, and the most important is to add new fabrics and new stuff. It's impossible. So I think outdoor industry in general and some brands in particular are better partners for consumers than others.
Yes, absolutely. There is a lot of greenwashing and marketing and stuff like that, which we talk a lot about on this show. Um, but transparency, I've noticed, is key. So, like, the more transparent a company can be with us as consumers, the easier it is for us to make more conscious buying decisions. And I've noticed, like, for myself,
Can I say one thing on that theme?
yeah,
We have applied a very traditional thing as a permanent connection to our company and the product, and that's a QR code. not super innovative, but the QR code, everyone knows what it's all about. And connected to that QR code, we have product information, characteristics, performance, how you treat the product. But we also can communicate with updates all the time on that specific product, of course. So that's something we try to now give the consumer a chance to, not only when they purchase the product, but even later on in the life cycle of the product, get updated information, the latest information on that product or fabric or whatever it is. If we find something, I mean, we have to be transparent. If we find something in that specific product, that's something we need to communicate. So it at least then because we cannot say that we have 100% control of 10,000 substances, but maybe it shows up, then we, with that connection, with that QR code and the connection to the product, we are able to be transparent to the customer.
Yeah, that is a little bit higher connection or connectivity, I guess, with the customer than probably most other brands that I have seen before. So it's easier to find that information from you guys. And I know that we have talked a lot about PFAS, but I do want to give you guys a chance if you have any other like sustainability changes or like exciting things on the horizon that you're doing with sustainability in the next few years, if you're willing to share. I know that some companies kind of keep it on the down low.
Donna has a lot, but I can start with, and I would like to start with extremely boring.
Okay.
By saying that, no, not really any big things. We will continue doing what we do, which is the best for the nature and for humans and for animals. And that's doing very robust, durable, timeless, and functional products that people are falling in love with and using it over time. So I think we are perfectly positioned to be a very, very, if not the most sustainable, one of the most sustainable brands in the world, because we have products that people are using. And the longer they use it, we all know what happens. I mean, the footprint is going dramatically down. So we are not stupid lightweight, if I may use that word, because we know that super lightweight products, if you are an unexperienced user, you destroy them and you have to buy something new. We try to do products that are not the lightest, but the most durable, very easy to repair. And that means that we have a life cycle which is one of the longest. And we keep products in this line with the ambition of keeping them minimum 10 years. That's a successful product, not in and out, but keeping them and developing them. And then they become a super good product which lasts forever. That's the boring part of it. And then you have, I know, plenty of things.
Of course, we've got, we're working with a lot of materials, a lot of things that are not cotton to replace cotton. Not that we don't love cotton, and not that cotton is the worst of what can happen in this industry or any other industry, but it is a material that we know we can do better, and we can do better with things that use less water, use less land, in that. So we're in multiple different projects of looking at how do we replace it with the attributes that it has, because you can't replace. It may not be a one-to-one, but you try to replace something with which is identifiable as the strengths of that particular product. So of course we are looking into materials. I mean, as far as like the recyclability of materials in general, that is something that we're always working towards. And we have phased out all DEC materials, and we're only really using A and Bs and innovation materials. And that is even going into like insulations, how to use a different type of insulation that is not synthetic based and not animal based. And somewhere between there is the innovation that we're working on. That's which is kind of a cool area.
But also keeping the best from the nature. Wool?
Yes, of course. Wool, I mean, it's a haircut. So in that in the simplicity of it. Sorry, but yeah, wool. The functionality of some products are kind of hard to replace, and do you really need to replace everything? But even refining that, where is, traceable wool, the best wool? We've transferred all of our wool into ZQ wool. We're the largest purchaser of ZQ wool globally, because everything we use is a fully traceable wool. But what is, again, what's the place to get better there? But yeah, we have quite a few things in the pipe. Not enough I can speak to a lot of them.
Yeah. Maybe we can come back.
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah,
But
and I mean,
how close are we to actually being able to come out with them? I mean, we're constantly trying alternatives. Was it natural alternatives using, mushrooms, banana leaves, all of these things that you can kind of break down into mechanically into kind of some sort of cellulose that you can make into material. That's a lot of us are doing that right now.
But as with lightweight and with organic cotton from the beginning, and with many other new developments, if the fiber is not strong enough and the product doesn't become durable for decades, let's not do it yet. Then we wait, because that's the key to everything. Our products should last, and they should be used for decades and generations. That's the target we have, and I think that diverse us from many others, where selling new stuff is more important than keeping them in line, keeping them on people forever.
yeah, and all of that is just a testament to your dedication to ensuring that everyone is receiving a durable and sustainable product, or as much as you guys can provide at the current moment with your knowledge. And more innovations are to come. So if listeners want to learn more about you and your products, how can they find you guys?
Yeah, Fjällräven. I know it's a tough name to pronounce, but just the pronunciation is kind of a fun exercise. But Fjällräven landing pages everywhere.
Yeah, you have local connection to each local market. Then you have social media, which is something that I would suggest that both our Instagram and Facebook accounts are very active, and we have massive amount of engaged people that will help in terms of responding without us being even involved. Then we have people involved as well. So I would say that's the best for the community, because if a question is asked in that environment, thousands or hundreds and thousands of people will be exposed to the same question and answer. So that would be, from a transparency perspective, that's the ultimate way of doing it.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to put all of that information in the show notes, because you might not know how to spell the name.
Yeah.
So it'll make it easy to find. You can just click the link and you'll be able to check out their website, their sustainability page, as well as their social media platforms. But with that, thank you both, Donna and Martin, for taking the time to come on the show, talk about your brand, and sharing all the cool changes that you have made in the last, since like 2008 with PFAS. Do you have any last few things that you wanted to share?
Actually, I want to thank Megan. I want to thank you for doing this. I mean, it's so hard. Sometimes it's so hard for us to get all the way out, and it's really the interest of the consumer to actually understand PFAS, and also understand why we have decided that it's not something that is good for nature, and we're, and thus not good for any of us. So we really appreciate that people like you are driving this subject all the way to the consumer, because if not, we can only stand on so many mountains and scream to get it out.
And my message is, if you want to deep dive and meet very competent people, or talk about brand and products and our sustainability work, we have 40 plus stores established in North America, which is a great platform. We do a lot of what we call campfire events, which are local events where we dive into many different themes like this. And we also organize something called Fjällräven Classic every year in multiple different markets where people can enjoy trekking together with us and with other people with the same interest, and there you can also learn a lot. So I would say that there are quite a number of touch points where you can meet us. Even though we are not easy to pronounce, we are easy to find.
Yes, you are very readily available in the United States and North America for all the listeners that are based over here. Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you hear, let me know. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Instagram at outdoor.minimalist.book, on YouTube, or subscribe to our weekly newsletter at theoutdoorminimalist.com. For even more updates, other educational resources, and to help build an outdoor community with the shared goal to create a better outdoor space as we recreate.